Hi, Professor. This is my assignment on the culturally responsive lesson plan. I believe culturally responsive means leveling the playing field, as they say, to give all your students the equal opportunity to learn. Not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with their race. I define their culture more on the way that they learn. So here is my lesson plan. It's for a second grade classroom on the solar system, and here is what the students, the objective, the materials that we will be using. I have changed here one of the materials. It called for the Magic School Bus in Space, and I felt that that book wouldn't be culturally responsive for my classroom. I need a book that's more concise, that doesn't use as much maybe slang or colloquialism as the Magic School Bus. So this is still a children's book. It still talks about the subject, but it is not, like I said, it's more equal for everybody to learn. The opening lesson, I would start with the students at their desks and working on a KWL chart. I would make the chart big on the smart board with large print so that all students can see, especially focusing on the students that might have some visual impairments. After the opening lesson on the smart board, I would move the students into the rug area, which would be at the front of the classroom, and where I would read the book. To be culturally responsive, I have assigned seats on the rug. Depending on the child's needs, it would be their location. If a child needs extra attention, obviously I would sit them at the front close to me so that they can ask me questions or see the book, see the words if they need to. After reading the book, I would, while they're still sitting there at the front, I would prompt my smart board to a website that I found for children. It's a NASA website, and I will show them on the smart board how to use it, all the tools. And this, the use of the website, I have purposely put it in the lesson plan to engage the students that like technology and that will learn better using this technique. So that's a way that I made that more culturally responsive to different types of learners. After that, the students would go back to their desk, and I would hand out a worksheet that we would be working on together. It's a fill-in-the-blank worksheet. I posted here an example of what it would look like. I highlighted here weekly vocabulary words. I think another good idea would be to incorporate the words from the lessons from the different subjects into that week's vocabulary words. So I added that right here. This page I would be demonstrating on the smart board, and my students would be following along to kind of get that brain-hand connection that when they're writing the word down, so they can see it themselves, not just hearing it, but also visually seeing it. After having filled this out, which this will also help them as a reference for the assignment, their independent or group assignment that they will be doing. Here it says independent practice, but it is actually a collaborative work. I highlighted here that I will give clear and concise instructions and expectations. What I mean is that I will make sure that my students understand what they need to do and what and how I will be grading it. I will give these instructions verbally, and I will also leave them posted on the smart board so they can look back and they don't need to ask me the same questions over and over. So I would leave that there. I provided the link for the the lesson or the worksheet that I provided. This is just the first page, but it is like 7 pages on how to create the mobile. So I have divided my classroom into groups of 3. Here, the groups of 3 have been assigned keeping in mind each child's strengths, needed areas of improvement, and learning style. So these groups haven't just been random. Like I said, I feel like at the beginning of the school year, you have to really focus on getting to know your students. And that way I can figure out how to group them to better serve them so that they all work together and teach each other, because, you know, we've learned that children learn best when they learn from each other. Each group will have a planet, and each group must prepare a visual and oral presentation for the classroom. For the visual, they will be creating the solar system mobile from the worksheet that I provided. In the oral presentation, the students must include the makeup of that planet and 5 interesting facts. So I did 2 types of assessments, the visual and the oral, to give students that have different preferences or different, you know, strengths and ability to shine. So if they're very good and creative and you know, do an awesome job on the mobile, some, you know, are more inclined to oral work, and some are better at writing. So others can write and the other person can actually do the oral presentation. I think right here I highlighted this: make sure to allow time for students who have questions or need further instruction. I think it's very important to time the lesson plan accordingly, because some students might need a little bit extra help, and that's also being responsive to your classroom's culture. Next is the students will begin their work at one of 2 stations. There are 2 stations, the research station and the creativity station. The research station consists of selected materials to enhance my lesson. So this station will have books that are related to the lesson that I have previously selected and put them there for them. And I need to ensure that the books are of various kinds. Some that have a lot of pictures, some that don't have a lot. The goal here is that all students have the same opportunity to learn. So I need to get to know my students and say, you know what, the student needs this. I need to find the material so that this child learns the lesson. So if, you know, here I give an example of an infographic that I would provide in this research station. I have also stated here the use of laptops so that students can access the web page that I have instructed them on how to use for the project. The use of the laptop and the web page I have integrated into the lesson to reach those kids that are that thrive with working with technology, or they're interested in working on the computers. So that's why I added that, to be culturally responsive to those children. The creativity station. This station, I have all the materials that they are going to need to work on their mobile. And I included a couple of extra materials like sand, gravel, soil, leaves, for those children that like to express themselves more creatively. Give them that opportunity to take their presentation, their visual presentation, to another level. So in there, I'm being culturally responsive to those types of children. Here, during their, while they're working on their projects, whether they're at the creativity station or research station, I would be calling groups one at a time to my desk to make sure that they understand the lesson, the project, my expectations, and how they will be graded. I would usually start, the first group I would call to my desk would be the ones that I know need the most instruction, the most time dedicated to them, so that they can start their project having just left my desk, and I can reassure that they know what that they have grasp the concept of the lesson. This gives me more one-on-one time to be able to reach each of my students. I have provided a worksheet for students if they finish their project early. And I have done this, I have done this for maybe gifted and talented students that will finish early, and you need to keep them engaged. You need to keep them active, actively thinking. So this is why I have given this worksheet, and also to minimize disruptions in the classroom. The assessment and evaluation, I have posted here how I will be assessing their presentation. So overall, I chose to put them in groups so that they can learn from each other, and they can use their different strengths and weaknesses to help each other. And I think working in groups also helps them get to know one another. And that is what being culturally responsive in my eyes means, to have the students feel comfortable in your classroom, comfortable with me as their teacher, safe with me, that they can trust me, and also feel part of the group. So in working with groups and getting to know each other, I think that that's very important, and always been important, especially in this day and age. It is important that children learn how to work well with others. So that's why I chose this lesson, and that's why I chose to have the children work in groups. But like I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, that I feel as though as a teacher, we need to learn to get to know each one of our students and form a bond with them, so that you can teach them with the right strategies so that you can get through to them. We know, I've learned that children learn in many different ways. Not every child, you can't try to teach a lesson in only one way and expect all your students to succeed. That's not going to happen. So I hope you agree with the changes I made to the lesson plan. Actually, Professor, this lesson plan was one of the ones that you provided, but I kind of just used this part as my as a base, but everything else has been pretty much modified. The worksheets, everything else is I did on my own. So I'm sorry if it's a little long, and thank you for listening.